Racism, bigotry, and made in the image of God. My name is Rabbi Wyne, and welcome to Life is Great, where every Sunday morning we examine a new universal value that is derived from Judaism and find out how it can enhance our lives so that we can live that best life possible. Thank you for joining me again on Life is Great. Recently, there have been all sorts of stories in the news about bigotry and racism. It's been a little uncomfortable. I want to tackle these issues today. It's very interesting. A lot of times I begin this program with a joke. However, as I was exploring some of the jokes, none of them were nice at all. I wasn't comfortable saying any of those jokes. It is remarkable. The Talmud tells us that when engaging in people, you should begin with humor. Humor is one of the most important and valuable commodities we have. We have to learn how to laugh at ourselves. We have to learn how to laugh at the world. By doing so, it releases certain energies and actually allows us to become more clear on life's most important issues. However, when it comes to laughing at the expense of another, when it comes to degrading another person, the humanity of another person, that is never acceptable. One of the reasons why, certainly when I have discussions with my boys and others, if there's any kind of racial comment, I shut it down. Now, it's interesting to note that I don't know many racists. I don't know how many racists you know. At the same time, in life, we are so offended with anything that even touches bigotry or racism. And one has to question, why? What is so bad about being a racist? Now, we know it's bad, and we know it's distasteful. It's distasteful because there's a lot of bigots out there, and nobody says, oh yeah, I'm a bigot. When was the last time you heard somebody say that? But we know there's a lot of bigotry out there. So the question is, what is so bad about it? And that whereas in the news, in discussions, a lot of people have been protesting, a lot of people said, well, it's really ignorant. That doesn't help us become better people. See, the point of Torah is to help us grow so that we can live the most pleasurable lives possible. So when we hear a news story, to just look at it as entertainment is falling short. It's cheating ourselves just to read the news, watch the news, and then go forward in our lives without actually saying, what can I learn from this and how can it make me a better person? So as we begin our discussion and our exploration about what racism is, and what bigotry is, and what we can do about it, we first have to ask the question, we know it's distasteful and yucky. Question is, why is it so bad? What's so bad about it? I went out to my favorite coffee bean, and I asked some of you, if you had ever met a racist before and experienced racism, and perhaps have you ever thought about what is so bad about being a racist? Stick with us. We'll see what you had to say. We'll come right back and explore some of the most powerful ideas. Okay, Chris, have you ever known anyone to be racist?
Not really, actually.
Okay.
I grew up in Las Vegas and not really. Growing up, never really. No.
Fantastic. Is there anything wrong with racism?
Sure. It's very closed-minded, and people that were racist, they don't really have a reason to be. There's no reason anymore to be racist, and there never was, but there's no room for racism.
Do you think that your parents' generation was more racist than yours?
Probably, yeah. Just because things were different, yeah.
If you encountered racism, similar to what happened by the Clippers, what do you think is an appropriate response?
Depends on the level of it, of course. I think any kind of racism should be, they should throw it back in their face and say, that's not right. Always.
Okay, great.
Never let people get away with that kind of stuff.
What should be a person's appropriate response if they encounter racism?
It would probably make you angry. It might be hurtful. Just walk away from it, though.
Okay. Welcome back. So, the question is, what is so bad about being a racist? Well, it's interesting. You might be familiar by the fact that when you go through the Bible, it says there that God created man in his image. God created mankind in his image. See, from a Jewish perspective, being a bigot, being a racist is a horrible thing to do. But the reason it's horrible is because every human being that walks on the face of this earth, yes, all 7 billion of us, was created in the image of God. And by being created in the image of God, what that means is when I look in your eyes, I have to see the divine. I have to see something godly about you. And if I'm a bigot, if I'm a racist, then in essence what I'm doing is I'm erasing the divineness of you. I'm erasing the godliness in you. And therefore, being a bigot, being a racist, at best is just ignoring the godliness in another human being. And at worst, it's spitting in the face of the Almighty, so to speak. So that's what's so bad about it. Imagine if I were to come over to your house for dinner and I would, look at the food. I'd say, yeah, I don't eat chicken. I don't eat beef. I don't eat salad. I don't eat bread. And then you turn around and you say, I don't like anything here. And you pick up, you walk away. Well, here the Almighty created humanity. He created humanity in His image. And for me to stop and to look at any part of humanity and say, blech, I don't like that. I'm better and I should rule over that, simply because the color of their skin or the way they talk or where they're from, then that would mean that I'm refusing to acknowledge the divine spark in that human being. So now we have to ask ourselves the question is, what does it mean to be created in the image of God? If we know what that means, then we actually will learn in a much deeper way the beauty that lays in every human being, and we will see in an intimate way the beauty that lays in ourselves and how we can actually behave in a better way. So let's go back to Coffee Bean and let's ask the people there, what do they think it means to be created in the image of God? Have you heard that human beings were created in the image of God?
Absolutely.
What does that mean, to be created in the image of God?
What does that mean? That we're all created in the image of God, according to the Bible.
Right.
We're all created in the image of God, and God is in all of us, and we are part of Him, and so forth.
Does God have a face or a nose or anything like that?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. Nobody's never seen you.
Right.
It's all by faith.
If God has a body, could you do something behind God's back?
No.
But if
Meaning what? Meaning do what behind his back? Like make a face at him?
if God has a body, then He would be limited, right?
Maybe.
Could God have a body and not be limited?
Sure, he's God.
He's God. He can do whatever He wants.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever hear that mankind was created in God's image?
I've heard that, yes.
What does it mean to you?
As a non-religious person, it means I'm not sure.
Do you have any idea what it would mean that you were created in God's image?
I guess if God created us, that I'm not sure actually. Like it's
Does God have a body or a face?
no.
So image would not mean corporal being.
No. Maybe ideals, stuff like that.
All right, so what does it mean to be created in the image of God? It's such a beautiful thing. Let me tell you what it's not. Let's start off what it's not. It's not, hey, God looks like a person, so He created humanity to look like Him. That's not what it means. God does not have a body. He does not have a face. God does not have an arm. He doesn't have a leg. He doesn't have a back. Any reference in the 5 books of Moses about God took the Jewish people out with an outstretched arm, or when Moses asked to see the face of God, and God said, no man can see my face and live. I will show you the back of my face, the back of my head. So any reference to physicality in reference to the Almighty is something which we call an anthropomorphism. It is something that means we are ascribing human characteristics to an infinite, non-physical being in order that we can have a relationship with Him. But God does not have a back. Otherwise, you could do something behind God's back. Can't do that. God does not have a face. God does not have an arm. God is not a corporal being at all. Our definition of the Almighty is an infinite being that is not physical and not finite, who created the universe. God existed, so to speak, before time. God existed before the universe. God will exist after the universe. And nothing we can do can affect the Almighty. So, right off the bat, I want to be real clear. When we say that mankind was created in the image of God, it does not mean that God has any physical attributes. It means something else. What is that something else? So our tradition teaches us a few different things about what it means to be in the image of God. The first thing is that God has the ability to choose. God can choose between good and evil. Now, in essence, again, that's a deep concept. What do you mean by good? Is good whatever you feel is good, and evil is whatever you feel is evil? So clearly it could not be that. That would be preference. But our definition of good is bringing the divine presence into the world in accordance with His will. In other words, the Almighty created the world in such a way that human beings have the ability to choose to go this way that brings more godliness in the world. And we also have the ability to choose and go this way, which has the ability to remove godliness from this world. Going this way is good, going this way is evil. Okay? We can choose. We can choose between right and wrong. We can choose between moral and amoral. We have that ability. In the same way that the Almighty has free choice, He can do whatever He wants, so too God gave us, human beings, the ability to choose. And that's the first aspect about what it means to be created in the image of God. The second aspect about what it means to be created in the image of God is that God is a giver. The more a person gives, the more we are God-like. You think for a minute, what's God's job? You know, listen, I'm a rabbi, you sell life insurance, you sell cars, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer. Okay, so everyone has got a job, right? So what's God's job? God's job is to give to us. That's all He does. That's how you know it's His job, because He gives to us. He gives us sunshine. He gives us air. He gives us life. He gives us our brains. He gives us our abilities. He gives us the rest of humanity. He gives us opportunities. He gives us the ability to scratch our nose. That's what God does. He gives and gives and gives to us. So if I put myself in a position that I am a giver, so then all of a sudden I become much more God-like. Which, by the way, that was the secret of Abraham. We know the story of Abraham and the Torah. Abraham, he decided he wanted a deep connection with God. So he looked around the world and he said, well, what does God do? God gives to others. So therefore, Abraham made a conscious decision to, against everything that would ever happen in his life that would prevent it, to push beyond that envelope and become a giver. And therefore, the fantastic story of 3 days after Abraham had gone through a painful surgery, he circumcised himself. And he's in a tremendous amount of pain. And it's very hot outside. And he's laying in his tent and he's speaking with the Lord. And he peers out into the distance and he sees 3 strangers. And Abraham says, God, hold that thought. And he gets up and he runs out to the desert and he greets the strangers and he says, please come into my tent. I'll wash your feet. I'll give you a morsel of bread. I'll give you some water. The 3 strangers acquiesce. And then Abraham picks up and he goes and he has his son prepare a feast for them and he serves these people. And Abraham becomes a giver because he wants to be like God. Parenthetically, by the way, if you have ever had a problem giving to another person, ask yourself for a minute. If you had just finished having a painful surgery and you were incapacitated and you saw 3 strangers on a very, very hot day, would you pick up, run out to them and give to them? Well, that's what Abraham did. Chances are your opportunity to give to another person is a lot less taxing on you than the giving to other people was on Abraham. That's just a little thought. But you see, he's our example because he's the person who says, no, be a giver. Go beyond what is my personal limitations to help give to other people, and then I will have a relationship with the Almighty. That's the second aspect about what it means to be created in the image of God. The third aspect of what it means to be created in the image of God is to become a person who is holy, a person who brings godliness into the world. See, what does Hashem do? And I use the word Hashem, meaning it's Hebrew word, it means the name. but it's the way we refer to the Almighty. We go through experiences in life, and sometimes our experiences are just dum-de-dum-de-dum-de-dum. They're just ho-hum. And sometimes you're in a place and you can feel the divine presence and you're inspired. That's because the Almighty infuses in that place a greater ability to feel His presence. If you've ever been to Jerusalem, if you've ever been to the Western Wall, you walk in there, you feel God's presence. If you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, you go to top of a ski hill, you look out there, beautiful sunset. There's just certain moments, certain places in the world that have a greater sense of kedusha, of holiness. As being created in the image of God means that we have the ability to bring godliness in the world. We also have the ability not to bring godliness in the world, which goes back to the first point, a point of using our free will, our free choice. But what all this comes down to is that when I look at another person, one of the reasons I should not be racist or bigot or being a bigot is because when I look into the eyes of a human being, I should see the divine spark in their soul. That's what it's all about. Not only that, but knowing that I'm created in the image of God. And that's what the Talmud tells us. Great is humanity, for mankind was made in the image of God. But even more blessed is humanity, because God told us we were created in the image of God. The Almighty let us know we were created in the image of God. And we know what that means, so now I have the ability to choose to be more godly. See, understanding what it means to be created in the image of God is not just relevant to help me identify what I should see in you. It's helpful to me to tell me what I should see in me. It identifies, it helps me focus. What is every effort? What is the aim of my life? What is the goal of me being in this world? If I know I'm created in the image of God, then I should know that the purpose of all of my efforts and everything that I endeavor to do should be to be a more godly person. How do I do that? I use my free will. Use my free will to choose good over evil. Don't allow myself to be trapped in decisions that I made 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Don't allow myself to be trapped in various fears or thoughts of inadequacy, or don't allow myself to be trapped by my desires. No, be free. Use my free will. Choose good. Choose to bring holiness and godliness into the world. And also it tells me that I should learn to be a giver. I should be someone who stops, looks around humanity and says, who has less than I? Who out there can I help? In which way? For one person, the only way I'm going to be able to help them is I'll give them a smile. For another person, I perhaps can share a piece of wisdom. Another person, maybe I can buy them a coffee. Or maybe another person, I can help them find a spouse. There's different acts of kindnesses that I can do to everyone if we open our eyes and we know that that's what we have to do. The final aspect about being created in the image of God is using our ability to speak. Now you know that if you read the Torah right at the beginning, it says God created the world through speech. And God gave us this ability to use our mouth. Use our mouth as instruments of creation. Use our mouth for instruments of holiness. So when I use my words in a proper way to elevate the people around me, when I use my words to learn and share wisdom, divine wisdom, when I use my words to pray and to connect with the Almighty, that's how I'm living in the image of God. If I use my words, God forbid, to gossip about others, put others down, whether it's in jest or not, using my words in an improper way is not living in the image of God. So I would encourage all of you, not only look at the divine spark in other people, but look at the divine spark in you and ask yourself, how can you live a more godly life? How can you live as a person who's more in the image of God? Using your speech in a proper way, bringing holiness into the world through your free will decisions, and also becoming more of a giver to the Almighty's children. Don't go away. My name is Rabbi Wyne. You're watching Life is Great, and we will be back in just a few moments with the Rabbi's Inbox and some of your questions. Welcome back, and we are ready to take a look at the Rabbi's Inbox. This is your opportunity to reach out, and you can send me any question you wish. Just email me at rabbi@therabbishow.com, and I promise I shall respond to you. Now, let's get straight to it, shall we? It says like this: Dear Rabbi, how do you know what is to be taken literally and what is not to be taken literally when reading the Bible? It's a great question because, earlier in the program I had mentioned that even though the Torah will say God brought the Jewish people out with an outstretched arm, God does not have an arm. At the same time, we do believe that when we say the sea split, yeah, God split the sea. Manna fell down from heaven. The 40 years the Jewish people wandered in the desert, yes, God brought the manna from heaven. There are many miracles that happened. When we read in the Torah that God created the world in 6 days, and those 6 days were 5,774 years ago, so we do believe that God created the world in 6 days. Now, again, I want to tell you, anytime you see a contradiction between science and the Torah, either you do not understand the science or you do not understand the Torah. But the two will never contradict each other. The basic answer to this question, which is how do you know what is literal and how do you know what is not, is learn Torah. If you learn through the Bible enough, then you will get a very clear sense with the oral tradition, with our tradition that God spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai and gave him filled in all the blanks. If you learn the Torah, not just by reading the Bible, but by also reading things that are codified by us in the Talmud, in the Gemara. And when you understand those things, then you will have a very clear sense of what is literal and what is not literal. To just pick up a copy of the Bible and read through an English translation, that will not give you an accurate representation of God's will. That actually will leave it open for you to create all sorts of different kinds of religions, as many people throughout the ages have done. But if you open up even an English version of the Torah and you study it with the knowledge of the oral law, something which we call the Torah Sheval Peh, it is codified in the Talmud. And if you learn it, you can come to Young Israel Aish of Las Vegas and learn it with me. You can go to many other Orthodox rabbis that have great in-depth knowledge of the oral tradition, and that will help you put all of the stories in perspective. Okay, let's go to the next one. It says, Dear Rabbi, coming up is Mother's Day. That actually happens to be today. It goes, what is Judaism's takes on Mother's Day? So I always joke with my mom and I say, Mom, I didn't send you flowers or call you on Mother's Day because in Judaism, every day is Mother's Day. But it's only a little half tongue-in-cheek in that I do call my mother on Mother's Day. And also that we have to remember that one of the most important commandments in the Torah is honor thy father and mother. That it is in the 10 Commandments because the amount of gratitude that we can express to our parents is intrinsically tied with how much gratitude we will be able to express to the Almighty. If a person has a lot of problems with their parents, it will be very difficult for them to have a healthy relationship with the Lord. You have to stop, understand Mother's Day is a day that our society focuses us on showing gratitude to our parents, and it's very appropriate to do that. Not just on Mother's Day, but every day. Make sure that we show appropriate gratitude to both of our parents. Today also happens to be, if you're in Las Vegas, it happens to be a celebration of Israel Independence Day. So that will be today at the Sands Expo from noon until a little after 4:30. And I will be there the whole time. So please come by the Young Israel Aish of Las Vegas booth. Say hello to me. And it'd be a pleasure to meet you in person. And if you are ever in Las Vegas, please come to Young Israel Aish of Las Vegas. Come to the synagogue, and I promise we will make you feel very, very welcome. Thanks again for joining me on Life is Great, and may the Almighty bless you with a magnificent week.
Want more wine? Turn your radio to AM 720 KDWN or go online to therabbishow.com to hear The Rabbi Show starting right after the news at 9 a.m.
Do you know someone who needs a little more happiness in their life? Maybe it's you who needs more happiness in your life. Yes, you've seen the Life is Great TV show. You perhaps have heard the Rabbi Show. But now it's time to get Life is Great, revealing the 7 secrets to a more joyful you. This book was something tangible that you can give your friends and family, where they can keep by their bedside, take it on vacation, leaf through it page at a time or chunk of pages at a time, and each time they will learn another secret, another tool that they can use in order to get the absolute most out of life. What better present can you give your friends and family than the wisdom to live a better life? My rabbi told me the most important commandment is to live life with joy as much as possible. Because if you have joy and enthusiasm and passion about life, if you really feel the Almighty's love at every corner, so then you will have the direction and the enthusiasm and the energy to fulfill all of the other commandments. Everybody has something they want. When you step into the world of Young Israel Aish, and you are welcomed by the right kind of community for you, so then all of a sudden you have support. You have support in terms of your personal growth, your spiritual growth. You have people you can share the good times with in your life, and people who you can share the difficult times in your life. And the result that we've seen over and over again is the people who become part of our community, they just have a much greater sense of life fulfillment. They have a sense of friendship, of connection with community, of connection with others. When you walk in that door, you will be greeted with a smile and come straight up to me and say hello. You don't have to be bashful or shy. No one else around here is. You just walk up, say hello, introduce yourself to me. So I really hope that any person that, whether they read the book, they listen to the radio show, they come to Young Israel Aish, whether it's every single day or once a year, that they acquire a piece of wisdom that forever enhances and enriches their lives. Thank you so much for joining me today in Life is Great. You know, there are so many people that are benefiting from this television program, from the Rabbi Show radio program, our YouTube broadcasts, and reading my book, Life is Great. I want to thank all of you, and I want you to know that the only way we can continue to distribute and to do these programs are through your generous contributions to therabbishow.com. So I'd like to encourage you today to go to therabbishow.com and make some kind of donation. Everything is appreciated in order to help us continue to spread these positive values and enrich and enhance other people's lives. Thank you.